Photosynthesis. Let's go over our notes. Make sure you're taking notes. So, chemosynthesis. Chemosynthesis uses energy released from chemical reactions to produce food for organisms. Organisms that carry out chemosynthesis are microbes such as bacteria that live far from the sun, such as deep on the ocean floor. Which organisms carry out photosynthesis? Autotrophs such as plants and some protista. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the cellular process in which autotrophs capture light energy and convert it into chemical energy such as glucose using carbon dioxide and water. Our equation for photosynthesis: 6 carbon dioxides plus 6 waters plus light energy will yield C6H12O6, which is glucose, and 6 CO2. So carbon dioxide, water, light energy will give us glucose and water. Oh, there's a 2 missing. Reactants and products of photosynthesis. So our reactants are carbon dioxide, water, and light energy. Products, glucose and oxygen. Where does photosynthesis occur? In the chloroplast, which contain chlorophyll, that is a pigment that absorbs or reflects light. So you have your outer membrane and inner membrane. The light green is the stroma. Then you have these little tiny green little pancakes that are called thylakoids, and a stack of them is called a granum. Types of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll A absorbs indigos, blues, oranges, and little red. Chlorophyll B absorbs a higher rate of blue and yellows and little orange. You can see in our graph we have our chlorophyll A and we have our chlorophyll B. Both of them do not want green light, and so they will actually reflect the green wavelengths, and that's what hits our eye, and that is the color that we see. Location of each reaction. There are 2 reactions of photosynthesis. The first reaction is the light-dependent reaction, which occurs in our thylakoid little discs, our little green pancakes. The light-independent reaction, also known as the Calvin cycle, occurs in the stroma. Light-dependent reaction occurs in the thylakoid. Cannot take place unless there is sunlight available. Water absorbed through roots. Chlorophyll within the thylakoid membranes absorbs solar energy and energizes electrons, causing water molecules to split. The hydrogen from the water is kept, and the oxygen leaves as a waste product through the stomata. Energized electrons move down the electron transport system, making some ATP. We have this little molecule I like to call a little taxi driver, or NADP, picks up the hydrogen ions, becoming NADPH, and moves them to the stroma for the light-independent reaction, or the Calvin cycle. The stomata, found on the underside of the leaf, surrounded by guard cells. So here are the guard cells that open and close to allow for the carbon dioxide, the water, and the oxygen gas exchange. Closed during the hottest part of the day to prevent transpiration or evaporation from plants. So here is a cartoon image of it, and then here is a microscopic image. You can see the guard cells, then you can also see the stomata. Light-independent reaction, or Calvin cycle. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere enters the stomata. Hydrogen ions break off of our NADPH, so these are our little hydrogen Uber. NADP returns to the light-dependent reaction to collect more hydrogen, And that carbon dioxide becomes fixed with the hydrogen, producing the glucose molecule C6H12O6. So recap of photosynthesis. So here's our formula. 6 carbon dioxides and 6 waters. We're going to yield glucose and oxygen. So within our thylakoid is our light reaction, or light dependent reaction. So our light's going to excite it. It's going to then take that water molecule, split it, keeping those hydrogens, releasing the oxygens. Those hydrogens, along with some ATP, hydrogens are attached to our NADP, now it's NADPH, and that is transferred to our light-independent reaction, or the Calvin cycle, then the stroma. Those hydrogens will combine with our carbon dioxides, and they will give us sugar. Our NADPHs are now NADP, and they go back to our thylakoid and to collect more. So that's a cycle in itself. Our light reaction will also make some ATP. ATP kind of runs this a little bit. In order to, when we take off that phosphate, we make ADP. We do not lose the phosphate, and then it'll go back in and attach another electron and cycle through. And you can kind of see that over here in our ATP-ADP cycle chart put for you. Remember that ATP equals energy. In order to get that energy, we have to break that bond from our 3 phosphates. So we have a ribose sugar, adenosine, which is a nucleotide, and then our 3 phosphates, adenosine is a nitrogen base, our ribose sugar, and then we have our 3 phosphates. Break that 3rd phosphate off, we're releasing all that energy. That phosphate is not lost, it just gets recycled back through. And we make ADP, adenosine diphosphate, that goes back through and combine that phosphate back on, and is just a cycle in itself. Environmental factors that affect photosynthesis. Light quality. So the color of light kind of determines how much photosynthesis occurs. Only red and blue light is really effective because it absorbs the red and blues and reflects the greens. Light intensity, the amount of light brightness. Plants in full sun tend to photosynthesize more than plants in the shade. Light period, the amount of daylight. Carbon dioxide availability, water availability, and temperature. More specifically in the light-independent reaction is catalyzed by enzymes, and remember that enzymes function at a certain temperature. And so we have 3 little graphs to kind of show that. Our rate of photosynthesis, and here is our level, our x-axis is the level of carbon dioxide. If we have plenty of light and our temperature is constant, we'll basically kind of plateau. And so we're either going to need to increase the light or the temperature in order for photosynthesis to kind of occur more. But we plateau out here. For temperature, rate of photosynthesis and our temperature, those enzymes, if they get too hot, they actually denature, so we're going to destroy that enzyme and photosynthesis will stop occurring and potentially could kill the plant if it gets too hot. For our light intensity, again, we're going to kind of, plenty of water and carbon dioxide, we're kind of going to plateau out. We need either increase our CO2 or our temperature in order for that photosynthesis to occur. So something has to change.